welcome to another episode of Lifestyle Unlimited. And I'm so excited to have a new guest on today, Mr. Jordan Edwards. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that you're here like in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So tell everybody like what's going on, because he like literally calls me out of the blue day before yesterday. And he's like, I'm coming up to Dahlonega, Georgia. And I'm thinking, okay, that's, strange. Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah, so we've been somewhat displaced, somewhat asked to evacuate, and it's this crazy story of we were flying back from New York, went to Tampa, Florida, which is where I reside, and as soon as we got there, hurricane warnings. Hurricane Ian's coming in, which we'll see the verdict in a couple of days now, and we decided to end up coming up to Georgia, and it was just perfect timing.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you've got to come and do a podcast with us, right? Like, if you're going to be here, you've got to get that done.
Absolutely.
Well, tell the audience a little bit about you, who are you now? What is it that you do?
Yeah, for sure. So for myself, I grew up in Jersey, moved down to Florida for school, ended up graduating, and some of the things I realized is that the whole corporate America is very not that exciting and not that fun.
Sucks, huh? Yeah.
So some of the stuff I ended up doing was when COVID hit, I ended up creating a podcast. And with that podcast, I've interviewed incredible people like yourself. Also like the founder of Reebok, Lee Steinberg.
Wow.
Yeah, all of these heavy hitters. And it's been quite a journey. But on top of that, I started a couple other businesses. And I've got my Edwards Consulting, which is where we do personal development coaching. And it's just been quite a journey.
Well, I know, you've got, so much going on.
Yeah.
You've got your consulting. So, like, what was the path that led you here? Like, where did it start? Like, were you, like, fresh out of college or fresh out of high school? Did you know that what you were going to be doing then? Like, did you know then, like, that you would be doing what you're doing now?
So for me, it was always, I've wanted to have my own business. I've wanted to do my own thing. And some of the components of that were, as I was in college, I was immersed, and it was go to school, get this internship, do this, do this. And then afterwards, you end up having this freeing feeling of like, what is it that I really want to do? And I would always ask myself these questions. And I realized that in life, it always comes down to the questions we ask. So there's higher level questions and lower level questions. And when you ask yourself the tougher questions, it allows us to reach that area of, this is maybe something I want to do. And I would always do everything on a trial basis. And what ended up happening
What do you mean by that? Like, you do everything on a trial basis? Like, you would just try it and stop, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, you give yourself 6 months to a year, and if it's not working out, fine, move on. Failure is part of the process. And I would go through this, and really in 2019 is when it all happened, because I came down and I told myself, I have these 3 goals. It's to pass all 4 sections of CPA, build a business, and then run a marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the Ironman, or like a whole...
26.2 mile run.
Yeah, wow.
And what ended up happening from that was I ended up starting this Edwards Consulting business. I ended up running the Lake Tahoe Marathon. And most importantly, I didn't pass a single section of the CPA.
Really?
And I say that, yeah, because I took it 3 different times and the timing wasn't working out. And then I realized, why do I want this? It's so that you can sign off on an audit.
Yeah.
It didn't aid me in any way. And this realization for me that it's okay to fail.
It's so funny that you say that. Like, my daughter jokes.
Yeah.
Like, I have a closet in my house called the Closet of Failed Businesses. Like, legitly.
Really?
Like, it's an entire closet of businesses that I started, just like you were saying, and give it 6 months, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
All of the paraphernalia that I bought, all the marketing I bought, I throw it in this closet. And she's like, Mom, that's so embarrassing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, it's not embarrassing at all.
Yeah.
You know what? If I never would have tried the things that I'm successful at, I wouldn't have had those.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to talk to people like that aren't, that had a dream.
Yeah.
Right? And what do you speak to these people now that are failing in their business? And, I think nobody tells people how important it is. It's okay to fail.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the notion of failure in our society, the United States for one, is one where it's nobody is allowed to fail. Kids are getting trophies for anything and everything. Even if they suck, no one tells them they suck. If you're bad at something, no one tells you you're bad. But in reality, in the world of entrepreneurship, failure is very, very good. Because when you fail, you learn. That's how I like to see it, at least. Because a lot of people will go, you spent 6 years doing what? How much time did you waste? And it's not wasting time, but it's learning ways to become more effective.
So like in those 6 years, like you spent your time learning to be a CPA, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm talking about like 4 years. I went through college. I graduated with an accounting degree. And it's like, did you waste those 4 years on an accounting degree? Not really, because I can transfer that accounting degree to a business where you can see the P&L and understand if the business is healthy or not.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, that's one thing that I've never been able to do. I've always had to have somebody to do it. Like you're like, you know what, I get that part, I get that part, I get that part, which when you've got a successful business, those things are hugely important. Because like my whole thing was, okay, well, if I just always make just a little bit more money, it'll solve all my problems. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, that's not... Till I met a good CPA, and they're like, Julie, like, you should learn how to save or maximize instead of just making more money to compensate, because you're just keeping less money in your pocket, and you've got to make double the money to cover your loss. And I'm like, mind blown.
And even on a more easier scale, just for anyone living, financial literacy is so important. To understand a personal P&L, like, hey, I made this much money this month. I spent this much money this month. I can save this much or reinvest it or buy this real estate or invest in partner-driven. Whatever it is, people need to understand their money, and I feel like they spend more time understanding sports characters and athletes than really understanding their own financials.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's something I'm going to continue to work on the rest of my life. So tell me a little bit about Edwards Consulting. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so the way it started was we started focusing on student loans with individuals, because I was graduating and I was like, I looked at my student loans and I go, I have no idea how this works at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got an accounting degree, graduated with honors, and this still makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I figured it out, and then I started presenting it to people, where it's like, hey, if we really understand our money, then we can make the most of this. And that's what we ended up doing. So I started that, which transitioned into, you don't just start talking about finance, you got to start talking about people's lives. So that comes down to personal health, which is mental health, physical health, community service philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. So once I started those 5 aspects to kind of build the emotional rapport with the individuals and then dive into the financials, I realized that those 5 areas were really the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Because financials, that's all accountability. And holding people accountable is super important, but really understanding a new life direction, that's where the difference is made. So now we have a group that we run on Monday nights, and it's just been an incredible experience where people come, they join, they get exposure, they learn about different things, they partner with each other in business, and it's just a very exciting area.
Yeah. You know, I never thought about this because, like, and I'm just going to be rude when I say this to tell you. Like, in my mind, like, anytime I'd ever, like, somebody that with an accounting degree or, like, a CPA, I'm like, okay, these are boring people, right? You know what I mean? No offense.
100%.
Because, like, they're so 1 + 1 = 2, you know, where me, I'm not a super detailed person.
Yeah.
But you did bring up something, like, I just had the realization is the mental stress that somebody like you has, because there's so much emotion around money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like you're the therapist of money. So that had to have been something that, like you were talking about, that's caused you to get into these other things, because you didn't want to just help somebody with the money.
Yeah.
It was the mentalities behind it.
Yeah, it's the mindset. It's all of it, because in reality, you can't just fix your money problem. You got to fix your life problem and your health problem and whatever that problem is, because what ends up happening is, like, if someone goes to the bar every weekend and they overspend, is that a money spending problem? Is that an ego problem? Is that honesty problem? Like, where's the problem with these individuals?
So that moment, right? So, like, I could see you, like, you're 6 years into it. You know, like, I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I've got this skill set. Was there, like, some catalyst moment where you're like, you know what, I think I care more about helping people, like, with more than just this financial side, or, like, the doing the taxes or doing generational wealth things. So was there like a catalyst moment, like maybe a customer that you had that you're like, you know what, I've got so much more to give?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was literally the person I met with, because we had this meeting, and I was nervous. I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to talk to him about? And I had the Excel sheet set up. He sent me all his information, and it was bad. Like, it was not good. Like, he owed a lot of money, and we had to fix it. And I was just like, what do you want to do, man? Like, what do you want to do? And it was this, well, down the line, I want to do this, 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 and this. And like, once you understand who somebody is and where they want to go, then you can sit there and go, okay, you want to reach this goal of being this senior supervisor or whatever it is, or own 1,000 houses or do whatever it is. You got to fix this Band-Aid first, because you're not going to be able to walk around with this much debt and have this job. Like, you got to realize the impact that living financially incorrectly is going to have on not just you, but your kids, your grandkids, and everyone in between.
And the debt. Do you know what I mean? It's one thing to say, I don't have enough money. It's another thing to say, okay, I'm completely negative. Do you know what I mean? And I've got all this stuff to pay back. So, you know, and I love the way that you said that, because I think a lot of us, we look as goals is like starting from where I am now to where I want to be. Like, everybody looks at it that way.
Yeah.
The thing that I heard from you was you saw this, and probably his whole life or her whole life, they thought, I want to be here, and what's the steps to get me there?
Yeah.
You said, what's your ultimate goal?
Yeah.
And let's work backwards.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the biggest things about that is, one of the things that goes on in my group, and I was talking to some of the people last night, one of the things that occurs is we think, oh my God, I'm going to hit this level and now I'm going to be happy. And I want to bring this up because in reality, happiness is in the moment. Like, we're happy right now. We're in this experience. And it's not happiness once I achieve that promotion, or once I get that house, or once I find that wife, whatever that, or husband, or whatever that is. You need to be happy along the way. You have to be happy with yourself to guide yourself into that space of where you really want to be.
You know, it's so funny. You know, I love that you say that, because everybody equivalates that money is what makes you happy, right? Or on the other side, money's the root of all evil.
Of course.
You know, you've got to look at that both sided, you know. Like, for me, when I had nothing, right, I was happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, of course, I had some terrible things that went on, but the money wasn't the happiness. There was moments there. There were some of the best moments of my life that didn't have to do with having any money.
Yeah.
And like, even now, like, I might be able to afford to do more things, but the moments in life that mean the most have nothing to do with money. You know, like, for me, it's spending time with people that I love, you know, and you know, I think that's what you're saying. So, like, when you're working with your consulting group, I mean, what are you seeing with these individuals? Like, what impact is this changing your life? Like, what are some of these limited mindsets that you're really helping? And guys, like, listen, you know, Jordan here, you may think, like, combining these things are huge. You know, if you don't understand what he's talking about with your emotions, with your money, why you're doing the things that you're doing, it's going to be really hard to get to the level that you are. But what is it that you're doing with your people that you feel like is influencing them the most?
Yeah, I mean, some of the major ones are, one of the biggest ones is detaching yourself from the outcome, right? So we had this one guy, he's big into trading. And he would say if he had a good day, he would be super happy, enjoyed, and elated. And
meaning make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
If he had a bad day, he'd be like, oh my God, this sucks. And he would drag it with him throughout the night. And the thing is...
home to his family.
Correct. Correct, yeah.
And then him and his wife or his spouse are fighting.
Yeah, it's a mess. And the thing is, once he learned to detach, he's like, oh my God, as soon as I'm done with work, I can enjoy my life. And not enjoy your life as like working is bad, but enjoy your life as I have other activities outside of work that I enjoy. So maybe you enjoy surfing, or maybe you enjoy skating, or whatever that may be. But that disassociation to, I need this deal to work for my livelihood, and that comes down to finances and then your emotional mentalness. And you can probably attest to this, that when when you were financially, it was a little bit tougher and tighter, was that something you were thinking about a lot more? Like, it was probably on the top of your mind a lot more, and then it causes financial stress, and you're like, we go to this nice restaurant, but no one's allowed to get a drink.
Oh, that was my whole childhood. Like, it blew my mind when I could go to restaurants and not order water. Like, when I became an adult, like, paying my own bills, I'm like, okay, I can order, like, a sweet tea or a Coke. Like, I don't have to have water, at the restaurant.
Absolutely, and the misconception that we have on so many of these things, like, last night, for example, we got to go to, it's me, my girlfriend, her mom, and her younger brother, and we're in the backyard, and in Florida, we don't have fire pits.
Yeah.
So we had a fire pit. We made s'mores.
And it's nice and cool outside right now.
Incredible. We made s'mores in the fire. And that was such an incredible moment.
Which was like $6 for some marshmallows, chocolate, and graham crackers.
Exactly. I sat there and I'm like, I've spent so much more money on such a not equivalent experience. And it's just this very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very interesting, kind of how you're bringing that and how you're changing lives and seeing, seeing really how that's affecting others.
Yeah.
Especially that story with the day trader. Like, even last week, I had a bad day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, day wasn't great. And, for the longest time, I'd come home and I'd bring it home or I'd bring it to my husband.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, if I had a bad day, why am I bringing him down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just cut.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I could still enjoy today. And it's not even like going out to dinner. Okay, let's just sit on the back porch and talk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think part of that, I don't mean to cut in,
please.
but part of that is, what's your definition of a bad day?
Yeah.
So for me, and I'd ask all of you this, everyone in the audience, what's your definition? Because for me, I made a bad day when someone close to you dies.
Yeah.
In which case, every day would be a good day because there's so many limited...
Or something terrible happens to one of your children that you can't get out of.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love, everything that you're doing, but what I want to know is what's next?
Yes. Sorry. So for me, I have a... Can I just get a water real quick? Sorry.
No, they can...
Edit it out, yeah.
No, I know, too, that you might be getting allergies from up here, too.
I have no idea.
Because fall allergies are...
I told you needed some water.
I was just going to cough, and I was like, oh, my God.
No, we got good editors.
Yeah.
It'll be seamless. Won't even be able to tell you.
I love that. Perfect. So what's next for me? Should I just keep going?
Yeah. Just do your clapping thing or whatever.
So what's next for me is, right now I'm focusing on a couple different areas, and one of the big ones I'm in is obviously coaching, and I love having people in my group, and I want people to come into that group. And I have the podcast, but another really important thing is merchant services. So there's business health, like we were talking about, and one of the things that people miss out on is saving money in that department, because there is so much bad characters in that space, and they just don't take care of the merchants themselves, and they just try to take as much as they can. So there's different ways that we save money there.
And I love when you talk about merchant services, because they're so small businesses in America.
Oh my God.
And when they're starting their business, they may choose a merchant service account with a high interest because that's what they had to do to get in.
100%. And if you're over that, like $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, we can definitely save you a lot more money, because a lot of people believe that this 2.7% with 30 cents is the way to go, but there's a lot more savings that can occur.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important that, as business owners know, especially with the economy that we're in,
every dollar
counts. That's more dollars in the pocket for your family. That's more for your employees. I mean, heck, this one savings might be able to give one employee a raise.
It can give, if it's on the right scale, it can give an employee a salary. Like,
yeah.
We've seen it where, when you think about it, if you go to a restaurant and I swipe my card, if I get $1 or $100, the restaurant will only really receive $97. So that's $3 of every single bill of every single $100 just taken away. there's ways to remove those merchant processing fees.
Really?
Yeah, there's new stuff that's coming out now where we can do different ways, and I'd love to have the conversation where we can remove these fees, and that can be in a restaurant, in your business, whatever it is, where it can save people a ton of money.
You know, Jordan, I think what we should do is we should really schedule a webinar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And bring business owners on and show them. Because like just in this one example for a restaurant, like the cost of lettuce used to be about like $27 a box. Now it's almost $90 a box.
Yeah.
So now that $97 on food cost is now down to what, maybe like 83 percentage wise. I mean, we really need to get this out there to the public, you know, because right now with inflation the way that it is, we've got to show people how to keep more money in their pocket utilizing merchant services.
100%. And there is clients that I've had where I say, do you want to remove the processing fees? And he goes, this is the only thing that saved me money in my business. Because otherwise, the restaurants they run on such a tight margin. It's 3 to 5%, and when you hit inflation of 20%, especially on food, it's dangerous.
It is. It's real dangerous. Well, I think this is all the time we have today, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us. Let everybody know, how do they get in touch with you? Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, which is Jordan F. Edwards. You can go to my website, edwards.consulting. You can even shoot me an email at jordan@edwards.consulting. And I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I can't wait to see what we're able to accomplish.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jordan.